Hello, one and all, to the 126th episode of the Rocker Dog Podcast, the only show that gives musicians a break from talking shop and instead talks about their dogs. I'm your host, Tim Dill, along with my ride or die Charlie, the handsomest dog east of the Mississippi. And today we are happy to bring you our conversation with drumming phenom Brooke Colucci, who some of you may know by her handle Rock Angel from her popular YouTube and Instagram content. And these are her disparate rocker dogs.
Today we are with Jinjer and Frank. Come here, buddy. Frank.
Frank, you're on.
Jinjer is a miniature dachshund and she is 3 years old. And this is Frank. He is a Boston Terrier and he is 5 years old.
All right. Well, it goes without saying, I think we need to add in a third guest with us today. You do have a beloved dog that has passed, and who would that be?
That was Angus. He was a English Bulldog, and we unfortunately had to, let go of him a year ago. He was 12 years old.
Okay. So yeah, when we speak of these dogs, I kind of want to get to know each one of them a little bit. Let's broaden it out to all three. I think, obviously Angus had a profound effect in your life, and he seemed like such a personality.
Oh, he was the coolest dude. He was awesome.
Well, I guess let's start with him. I usually, I kick off the show just by getting kind of a little bit of the context of how each dog kind of came into your life and your family. So let's go oldest to newest and go back to Angus. What was kind of, the situation of him coming to your family?
So Angus came into our family when I was in third grade. So I was about like 8, 9 years old. And he was just the coolest dog. There was like an immediate connection with him. And he, from the moment we brought him home, he just like fit so perfectly into our family. Yeah, like I said, he was just the coolest guy. He was always so chill, like never overreacted at anything. He never really barked that much other than, the occasional like Amazon guy pulling up the driveway.
Right.
Yeah, he was just literally like the perfect dog. You could take him anywhere. He got along with everybody. He loved food, obviously. He was such a meatball of a dog.
How old was he when you got him? Was he just a puppy, like a 8-week-old puppy?
Yeah, he was about 8 weeks old when we got him. We actually got him on New Year's Eve is when we brought him home.
He's so funny to see his page. What was his page? The Snack Seeker.
Yeah.
He just never seems like you never imagine him as a puppy. He's just such this big guy full of personality.
Yeah, it seems like he was just born that way, born that size.
Well, when you did say he's easygoing, one of the things I noticed is I wanted to ask, did he like being dressed up? Because I see him in a dinosaur outfit, a turkey. He's in a bikini in one of your shots. He's in sunglasses. Was he chill with that, or was he tolerant of that?
He was really tolerant of that. Like we could put pretty much anything on him. He had an array of costumes. He had a whole wardrobe. And he was totally cool with like whatever we put on him. Obviously, there was like the occasional, he didn't always love hats, anything around his head, but he would keep it on long enough where we could, get a cute photo.
Yeah. And, skipping around your social media and your YouTube page, I'm not exactly sure where I saw it, but you used to have a video that opened with him almost like he's the MGM lion.
Yeah.
Whose idea was that?
Oh my God, this was quite a few years ago when I first started doing YouTube. And at the time, my brother was helping me. And so were like my parents, like, it was like a family thing at that point when I first started. And I think it was my mom's idea to put Angus's head as the MGM lion. Because we had this video of him, I think he was like yawning.
Yeah.
And like, oh my God, this is perfect. So.
You got to bring that back. It was very funny.
Yeah.
And then also there's a great video of him doing this like rollover trick. I think it was called the dinner roll. I think that maybe that's what you called it.
Yeah.
Was he trained? Did he know a lot of tricks?
Yeah, he knew how to roll over. He's like the basic, like roll over, sit down, lay down, all of that. My dad taught him how to roll over. He bought some prosciutto and he taught him with like the prosciutto as his treats. So that's
Right.
how he learned how to roll over.
Food motivated. I love it.
Oh yeah.
So next in line is Frankie Joseph, according to their Instagram page, and there's Angus Vincent. Now, did the main names have any significance?
Not too much significance. I mean, like the Vincent, my dad's middle name is Vincent, so we were
Okay.
like, oh yeah, like, we'll just give him the same middle name. And then Frankie, we have a lot of Joes in our family, so we'll just make his middle name Joseph.
Okay. So Frankie being 6, so it sounds like you've had Angus about 5 years. What made you decide to bring in another dog?
I think Angus was about 8 years old when we brought on
Okay.
Frank. What made us want to get Frank is I think my mom or dad saw an ad for like rescues from this like local shelter. And it was, a bunch of Boston Terrier puppies that had come from a puppy mill down in Georgia. So Frank was a reject because his stripe on his head, it's not perfectly straight.
Okay.
And his ears, they don't perk up, they're like a little floppy. So apparently that made him not good to the breeder.
Right.
But we rescued him. So that's how he kind of came into our life was just, we saw that he needed a home. We went to go visit and just fell in love with him.
And then what about Ginger?
Ginger, I got 3 years ago. I was going through a little bit of like a rough patch, and I was like, I just really like I need another dog, I need another little furry companion. And I was looking, I always loved dachshunds. They're like probably my favorite breed. And I also wanted like a smaller dog too, since I travel and I would love to, take her with me wherever I go. And I found this local breeder that was, she's so amazing and so loving. And you can tell that she bred dachshunds because she loved the breed, not
Yeah.
because of the paycheck. Like she truly, like I remember when I went to go pick her up and bring Ginger home, she like had tears in her eyes, like letting go of the puppies. It was just like she came from a great home. So yeah, Ginger came into my life because I just, it just felt time to get another dog.
So there was a time you had 3 dogs.
Yeah, we had all
How,
three of them.
how was
Yeah.
that? Did they all get along? Did they, when they all first meet and greet, did they all, I know there's different times when Angus met Frankie and then Angus and Frankie meet Ginger. Is it
Yeah.
smooth sailing most of the time, or was there that typical adjustment period?
There was definitely a little bit of an adjustment period when we brought home Frankie, and I think that's just because to Angus, he was the only dog for 8 years. He got so
Yeah.
used to being the only child. And then also to Frankie, it's another male. So he definitely felt like he had to assert his dominance. And, Angus definitely let Frank know that he's the boss and that he's like pack leader. So there was definitely a little bit of an adjustment with that. But it wasn't, after that, though, they got along so great and, they were best friends. When we brought home Ginger, they really didn't react at all. I mean, obviously they were like sniffing her, like, oh my God, what is this? Another dog. But there wasn't that same sort of,
Kind
it
of
didn't
that
seem
male
like,
dynamic of, where do I
yeah,
fit in the scheme of things?
yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, they all got along really well. And, Ginger and Frank, they're still best friends. They cuddle all the time. And yeah.
That's great. Does Ginger sleep with you under? I know they're like a burrowing breed. So does Ginger sleep with you under the covers?
Oh yeah, she does. She loves to get under the blanket and even too, like during the day, she'll burrow under the blanket, and I always have to like before I sit on the couch or sit on my bed, I just have to look underneath to make sure I don't sit on her.
It's so funny. It's so funny that that's such a defined trait in that dog that it happen. Everyone who has one has the same experience.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, what's funny about the 3 of them, they're just so diverse. I mean, size, shape, probably temperament, everything about them. So I'm curious to kind of, see how they differentiate. So who would you say is the most metal?
the most metal. I would say Angus was the most metal.
He's got the most metal name, I think.
Yeah.
And why is that?
I feel like I keep using the same term to describe him, but just the fact that he was just cool. And like I could be playing drums and he would be walking around and like not care at all. He like loved it. He loved, we have this one video of him and he is just like sitting there and he's like listening to Metallica. I think it was like Ride the Lightning. And you could just tell he was loving it.
That's awesome. Who would you say is the most emo?
Most emo, Frank. I think Frank is. Yeah. Because he's a little, I will say, he's great with people, but he does get sometimes like a little nervous, and you can see it in his eyes, like his big bug eyes. He just gets like, you
Right.
know, yeah, he's definitely the most emo, I would say.
Well, my last one, I don't want to have to assign it to the last dog left, was going to be Yacht Rock. But what would you assign Ginger to? What kind of genre?
It's a great question. I feel like she's got to be like good old classic rock,
Classic rock? Okay.
because
Okay.
she's yeah.
Okay, along those same lines, who's the most independent?
They're all pretty independent, I would say. Of the three, definitely, I would say Angus was the most independent, but now I feel like Ginger is honestly the most independent.
Okay. And just by hearing you say the reason you did get Ginger, you're going through a rough time, the question is who's the most therapeutic? Like if you had an emotional support dog of your three dogs, which one would kind of fit that role? I mean, I understand all of them probably do, but which one probably has which one could you sit across the couch from and tell all your problems to?
Definitely Ginger. She is the one, if I'm sitting down, even if I'm just sitting down to like eat breakfast, she wants to cuddle in my lap and sit in my lap and be with me.
Hmm.
Same thing every night when I lay down, she comes right up to me and she sits like right next to me and gets all cuddled up and ready for bed. So,
Okay. That begs the question. I've been asking this recently. It's something I've just been cognizant of probably the last year, but, and it's not the obvious answer, but the difference between, what do you see the difference between male and females? Because I think in a broad stroke brush, what I've seen is, and it's contrary to kind of what you're just explaining, that the females have a little bit more independence and aren't as needy, and the boys are so needy and need to be on the lap, need to have the attention. What do you find?
between male and female, yeah, it's hard to tell because here's the thing. With the breed, like Ginger, Dachshunds are known to be a little bit of loud mouths and like a little, have a little sass.
Yeah,
Like I would definitely say that Ginger has more like attitude than
right,
Frank does. I guess the biggest difference between the two is you can tell that Frank cares what you think,
right.
and Ginger does not care what you think.
Yeah. Okay. Where do you fall? Do you tend to, I mean, as someone who's got such a popular following on social media, some of the pitfalls are, negative comments or, the evils of the internet. Are you good with letting things roll off your back or do certain things, affect you?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, there really isn't anything that bothers me. At the end of the day, people are going to have their opinions and they're going to express their opinions, and, that's their right to express their opinion. It has never bothered me. Every so often, I'll get like one comment or two, and it gets under my skin a little bit, but it doesn't ruin my day.
Yeah, good,
It's very easy for me to let go of things like that.
good, good to hear. Good to hear. Who's the most protective? And let's say of the three, let's bring Angus back.
I'm gonna say Ginger.
Good. That's
Yeah.
funny. The
Yeah.
smallest and the most fierce.
Oh yeah. She is definitely the one who she definitely barks the most, I would say. And just, yeah, anytime somebody like comes over, the first like couple of minutes, she's definitely like barking at them and like letting them know like this is my house.
Love it. Love it. Now, I was going to say, can we assign a drummer to each one? Like, who would be the bottom of the group?
Definitely, I think Angus would be the bottom.
Okay. And I won't throw out any more names, but let's assign Frankie and Ginger to a drummer.
I would say I would say that Frank is like a Neil Peart.
Okay. Is that due to kind of finesse and dexterity, or
I think so, because whenever I think of Neil Peart, I always think of, he's like so on it and like so locked in and everything was like super tight, his drumming. And I feel like if Frank was a drummer, that's how he would drum.
okay?
So,
I'll accept that.
um,
And
Ginger would,
Ginger,
I feel like Ginger would be like a Mitch Mitchell.
okay.
Yeah.
Why?
I guess just overall her vibe and some about like the way she walks and the way she, struts and waddles around.
Hmm.
It's like I could see that matching Mitch Mitchell's drumming.
Okay, that's
So
perfect. Before I forget, where did the spelling of Ginger come from? Because I remember when I wrote you to approach you about the show, I was like, Ginger, and you said, sure, Jinjer would love to come on.
yeah, so I named her after one of my favorite bands, which is Ginger spelled with the J's.
Okay,
And I remember like I've been a fan of them for years. And I always like thought like, oh, Ginger, like that would actually be like a cute name for a dog too. And when I got her, I had a couple of names picked out and that one it just stuck. She just felt like a ginger. So
yeah, it's interesting. Now, is the band Ginger aware of that? I don't know if do you know them, or have you had any interaction?
yeah, I am friends with like the bass player and I remember on my first post with her.
Right.
He commented about like, oh, like great name. So the basis is aware, yes.
Awesome. Well, speaking of first post, I want to touch a little bit about social media with your dogs, and I'm curious to where you want to take it because there's a new one, Bark Angel, which it
Yeah.
seems to be one post, which was just about a week ago, and then your Snack Seeker, which was more of the Angus and Frankie Instagram. You only had one post of last year, and that was of Ginger. So is Ginger the face of the future for the canine arm of Rock Angel Enterprise?
She definitely is. I just made that Bark Angel account for her, yeah, like just over a week ago. And there's definitely, you can see more from Ginger on that account coming in 2025. And yeah, the Snack Seeker account, that was Angus's account. And then when we got Frankie, had to add him on to that. So
Yeah.
those the two guys. And then Ginger has her own account now.
All
So.
right. So, what makes you a dog person? What is it about dogs that connects with you?
So I always grew up with there was always a dog in the house. And it's one of those things it's sometimes hard to explain, just that connection that you get with an animal. But something about dogs, it's just always like they're always so happy to see you and they come up and they greet you and they jump on you and they lick your face and they're just always happy to see you. And that kind of comforting and warm energy was just always what I loved about them.
Hmm.
And, I can't imagine living life without a dog.
Yeah.
Just the way that they're always there for you.
Yeah. What's your earliest memory of a dog, like of a family dog?
So our first family dog was another English Bulldog, and his name was Knuckles. And he was around before I was born. So I kind of like grew up with him, and then we got Angus, and yeah. So there was a period too where we had Knuckles as well when we had Angus. Like their times
They
over.
overlapped. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, do you want another English Bulldog someday?
I would definitely get another English Bulldog. You
They
know.
seem, I mean, my friend has two, but again, when you do the show, you're exposed to so many different dogs, and it's just so funny to see his Instagram page. He's just so full of personality. It's very funny.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they're great dogs. They really are. I yeah, their personalities are great and just they're good size too. Like they're big enough where you can like hug them and you don't have to worry about squashing them, but they're also
Right.
not too big where they're gonna squash you. So
Yeah. Now, out of all the dogs, all three, or even all the dogs in your life, do you have a go-to story for any of them? Is there some sort of drama or funny anecdote that immediately comes to mind?
yeah. So Frank, when we got him, we had Angus, and then shortly after we got Frank, we got Jinjer. And both Angus and Jinjer are barkers. They were always the ones to like let us know if somebody was at the house. And we never realized this, but Frank like doesn't bark at all.
Hmm.
So, and it was something we only noticed like within the past year after Angus had passed. So over the past year, Frank has been trying to find his voice and trying to bark. And it has been hilarious because he's like the Peter Brady of dogs. Like his voice kind of cracks and he'll start off with like this howl and it slowly gets into a bark. So it's been funny watching him
I
like
love it.
yeah, growing
Are
from
there
stuff.
any videos of that?
I do have a video, yeah, of it.
Okay. All right. You gotta,
Yeah.
you gotta, you gotta put those up soon. Well, I wind down every show with what I call the zoomies, and that's just five fast questions. And the first one you kind of answered in one of your last answers, but is do you let the dogs lick your face?
I do. I
Okay.
do. Do not care.
That's
I love
good. That's
them.
question two is do either of them, or if we were to assign a theme song to them, what would it be?
Well, when we had Angus, we always assigned him either the Jaws theme song
Right?
or something about Little Drummer Boy really got him going. Like he would always bark when that song came on.
That works. Third question is if they were to tour with you, what would they want on their tour rider? Now you mentioned Ginger is maybe the perfect size, but let's go through all three. What were all three into?
So Angus would definitely need some prosciutto on his tour rider.
Fancy, fancy.
Yeah, he's a fancy guy. Um, Frank would definitely need some scrambled eggs. He loves scrambled eggs.
That's a new one.
And Ginger, she would definitely need some steak.
Steak. Wow, she's got
Loves steak.
some high-end tastes.
Every time we make steak, I have to save a little bit for her. So
She's a lucky dog. Question four is do you have a dog voice?
I do. It is,
What? Go ahead. I was going to say that I kind of split that question into two parts. One is, do you speak to them in a dog voice, which is usually like hi or baby? And the other end is, do you channel a dog voice, like almost impersonate what they would sound like as a human?
yes, to both questions.
Okay.
So my dog voice is very high pitched and it's honestly obnoxious. Like it's so high pitched you can't even understand what I'm saying.
Okay.
Um, and then my voice for them, like when I'm interpreting like what they're saying and what they're thinking, it's also very high, but it's a little bit more like nasally,
Uh-huh. But do
like
do you give a personality to each one? Like, would I be able to tell between the two or the three of the dogs, the each different personality through your voice?
no, I give them the same voice.
Okay, okay. But go on, you were explaining it's high, it's nasally.
Yeah, it's just kind of like, I'm like trying to get into character to do it, but like also it's one of those things it's hard to just like put on.
Yeah, no, I
But
get it.
yeah, Frank is just, yeah.
You may not want this to live on the internet for eternity.
Maybe not everybody needs to hear my dog voice.
Only those close to you. No, I understand. I understand. I never pressure my artists to do so. Although I will say, you guys are performers. Perform.
Yeah, I get it, but performing better at performing on the drums.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. And last but not least, number five is can you give a shout out to a dog or dog service or organization?
Yes. I would love to give a shout out to Mount Haven Rescue, which is where we got Frank from.
Okay.
They what they do is they take in puppies and cats and all sorts of pets from like puppy mills and I guess I mean I'm not as much of a cat person, but I guess I would assume that there's also cat mills as well.
Yeah.
But they take them in and they give them to loving homes.
That's great. Now, did you say New Haven?
Mount Haven
Oh, Mount
Rescue.
Haven. Okay. Where's that at?
It's in like New Paltz, New
Okay.
York.
Okay. All right. Well, great. I'll find some more information and put their information in the show notes.
So thank you.
Well, Brooke, thanks for sitting down with me and showing me your dogs and sharing me your dogs. I appreciate it. It's always fun for me to see and hear all about these wonderful creatures. So thanks for your time.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. This is such a cool thing what you're doing, and I really enjoyed hopping on here and sharing more about my pups.
I appreciate that.